Locally grown fresh fruits and vegetables, sustainably raised meats and seafood, regional cheeses and handmade items, while connecting with neighbors in one of Boston's most cherished public spaces. Visit the Copley Square Farmers Market and support farmers and local makers. Sponsored by Mass Farmers Markets, a nonprofit working to strengthen farmers across Massachusetts. Find markets near you at massfarmersmarkets.org.
This is Michael Valila, Adjutant of the Disabled American Veterans Department of Massachusetts. We pride ourselves on being able to support veterans in their time of greatest need, ensuring they receive the protections they deserve. For over 100 years, the DAV of Massachusetts has helped thousands of veterans with housing, transportation, and medical assistance, and you can help too. Please visit dav5k.boston and make a donation today. That's dav5k.boston.
The United States Virgin Islands is consistently voted one of the top Caribbean destinations. And recently, 2 of their beaches, Trunk Bay in St. John and Maggins Bay in St. Thomas, were voted a top 10 best beach in the Caribbean at the 2025 Traveler's Choice Best of the Best Awards. From the pristine beaches to its world-class dining, rich history, incredible golf, and perfect weather, the USVI has everything you need to make memories that will last a lifetime. From the moment you arrive, you will fall naturally in rhythm with the heartbeat of the islands. There's no money to exchange, and travel from New England could not be easier. Whether you're looking for a romantic getaway or a family vacation, the U.S. Virgin Islands is the perfect place for your next adventure. Go to visitusvi.com right now for more information and to book your trip. The USVI is America's Caribbean paradise. Go to visitusvi.com today. That's visitusvi.com. The Financial Exchange is produced by Money Matters Radio and is hosted by employees of the Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. All opinions expressed are solely those of the hosts, do not reflect the opinions of Armstrong Advisory or anyone else. Investments can lose money. This program does not offer any specific financial or investment advice. Please consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong Advisory and the advertisers heard on this program do not endorse each other or their services. Armstrong and Money Matters Radio do not compensate each other for referrals and are not affiliated. This is the Financial Exchange with Chuck Zodda and Mike Armstrong. Your exclusive look at business and financial news affecting your day, your city, your world. Stay informed and up to date about economic and market trends, plus breaking business news every day. The Financial Exchange is a proud partner of the Disabled American Veterans Department of Massachusetts. Help us support our great American heroes by visiting dav5k.boston and making a donation today. This is the Financial Exchange with Chuck Zodda and Mike Armstrong.
Kicking off our show today, it's Chuck, Mike, and Tucker with you, and our top story is going to be the House passing their version of the tax bill through the reconciliation process this morning. I think it was around maybe 6:45, 6:50 a.m. when this vote happened and the House passed it. I'm actually not going to get into too many specifics. The reason being,
it's all going to change.
This bill now heads to the Senate, where they're going to craft their own version, vote on it, and then if there are significant differences that have to be reconciled, they go to something called conference, where they then get together and decide, hey, what are we actually going to do for, the final version. So, we can talk about some of the broad strokes, but I'm not going to get into the specifics as to hey, what's the tax on remittances going to be, or, what does this mean for the SALT deduction? Because this stuff can all change.
We've been burned a few times on these types of ideas that
Yes.
haven't made their way through the House and Senate yet. So it's through the House. What we do know and what some market reactions are is that almost any version of this bill is going to massively substantially increase deficits and increase net spending after taxes.
Yeah, the various estimates, and again, it's going to depend on exactly where this goes in the Senate, but the various estimates are anywhere between a $3 and $6 trillion increase in the deficit over the next decade relative to baselines if this were not put into place. In terms of, again, broad strokes of what's in here, it extends the 2017 tax cuts. Mm-hmm. And also make some additional changes to basically, carve out some additional cuts in certain instances. There is an increase in the state and local tax deduction. The version in here is up to a $40,000 cap that then, drops based on various different income levels and this and that. And there is also a change to the standard deduction, bumping that up in particular, bumping it up for older people as well. There is, again, some changes to, basically how some of the Inflation Reduction Act green energy tax credits would be phased out, with some of them being phased out by 2028. It would also have some significant changes to Medicaid that potentially result in a bunch of people. The estimates I've seen are anywhere between about 7 and 12 million people ending up kicked off of Medicaid in the event that you go through, with this exact process here. And so I think the big thing is that ultimately it's going to be a bill that adds some additional tax breaks, maintains current rates, but does so without any significant offsets. And I think that's what has people a little bit concerned as you start to look at the deficit math. And again, I think I come back to, look, for the last 70 years, people have been crying deficit and it hasn't mattered. Is it different this time? The answer is potentially yes, but I'm also not willing to just sit here and be like, yes, this is going to be the thing that definitely pushes, the deficit into problem territory. But I got to tell you, a couple things that you watch and you look at it and you're like, okay, like you're running into some issues. The first being, hey, how is the bond market reacting to this? And basically immediately after passing this, you saw bonds throwing up all over themselves yet again. So that was not exactly a great sign. Other things, just if you look at the projections for where, expenses in terms of like interest on the deficit goes over the next, 20, 30 years, federal interest expense becomes the single biggest line item in the budget in about 15 to 18 years. And so that becomes problematic.
Let's contextualize that, because I feel like people have already been cognizant of this, and it's been making headlines because it started exceeding defense spending recently. That doesn't make it the single biggest line item, though. When we talk about single biggest line items in the budget, where are we in terms of those right now?
So here's the thing. If you go back and look at the 2000s and 2010s, interest expense on the federal deficit was running about 1% of GDP a year, peaking at around 1.5% of GDP a year.
Okay.
The U.S. government brings in, depending on the particular year, anywhere between like 16 and 19% of GDP in revenue.
In tax revenue.
So if you do the math out, and let's take the midpoint there, let's call it 1.25% and call it, 17.5% of GDP. Through the 2010s, interest expense was typically about 7% of the overall federal budget. That's where it came in. Where it stands today, again, if you look at, how much the U.S. government brings in, again, let's kind of take that 17% number as a good baseline. The last fiscal year, you had interest expense being about 3% of GDP. So you do 3 divided by 17, and now interest expense has gone from 7% of government spending up to 17%, meaning for every dollar we spend, for every dollar the federal government spends, 17 cents of it goes to paying for stuff that we've already spent money on.
Yep.
As opposed to, the 2000s and 2010s, it was about 7%. The projections, okay, by comparison, the entire defense budget is about 3% of GDP right now. Medicare is about 3% of GDP. Medicaid is about 2% of GDP. And Social Security is about 5% of GDP. So that's what we spend on those various different programs. The projections, and this is basically it's looking out over the next 50 years, and it's using the assumption that the effective interest rate on the deficit is also going to stay in the high 3 range. So
which it's not currently.
Which it's not currently. So it's basically
higher
saying
than that currently.
If interest rates don't go up, I don't know if that's right or wrong. I mean, again, I think 4% is a reasonable baseline to work from. If this is the case, then over the next 30 years, interest expense goes from 3% today up to 4% by early 2030s, up to 5% by mid-2030s, up to 6% by late 2030s, and by 2054, is about 9% of GDP. So to put this in perspective, we've already seen interest expense surpass defense spending. This year is going to be the first year that interest expense surpasses Medicare spending. In 2042, based on these projections, interest expense will surpass Social Security spending and will be the single biggest line item in the budget. Now, again, let's assume that we continue to have U.S. tax revenues, federal tax revenues, 17% of GDP. When it surpasses Social Security, interest expense is going to end up being more than a third of all government expenditures in any given year. And this is where you get to the problems about, hey, what does it look like for, debt to GDP? And the questions are twofold. The first is, who buys all those bonds? The second is, what's the interest rate that you need in order to
sell them?
And the third is, hey, if that interest rate is too high, does the Fed just start buying a whole bunch more bonds? And in doing so, do they create a bunch of inflation because you're not letting the market set interest rates? Right. These are questions that we don't know, and quite honestly, we're not going to necessarily know for 10 to 15 years. Why it matters now is bond markets have been throwing a little bit of a tantrum this week. Not just this week, the last couple weeks. And this is potentially another log on the fire. It's also something where, again, I'm never one to just say, hey, what's moving markets is one thing. Because, look, there's a decent chance, let's say we get a bad unemployment print in the next month or two, and the 10-year Treasury goes from 4.6 down to 4.1, did the deficit picture just improve?
Right.
No, the growth
this
picture
is what
for
happened
the U.S.
last
just
fall.
slowed. So I don't like to attribute everything going on in the bond market to one thing, but I do think the timing of passage on this and people focusing on it, as well as, hey, just the general discourse around U.S. Treasuries over the last month or two, it's something worth at least paying attention to, even if you don't say, hey, it's this, it's this, it's this, it's this.
This reminds me a bit of the conversations we were having a few years ago with the CHIPS Act. CHIPS Act passed under Biden, right? Bipartisan effort to expand semiconductor production in the United States. Cost a lot of money also, and not same scale, but I remember talking about it.
$62 billion.
Right. I remember talking about it in the same context of seems to be a good, intelligent bill. The only criticism would be there's no offset here in tax increases or in spending in any way, shape, or form. It just blows out the deficit further. This is that on steroids. I do think it's a good idea to extend the tax cuts that the Trump administration put into place back in the late 2010s. The problem is you are not raising revenue anywhere. You are blowing out the deficit an additional few $1 trillion. And the lesson that every president has learned over the last 20 some odd years has been that it doesn't matter. It'll be somebody else's problem down the road. At some point, maybe that narrative doesn't work. I doubt it's today, just based on the odds of things, but at some point it matters.
It's not today. Again,
yields aren't at 7%, so it's not today.
No, but could it be next week, next month, next year? Yes. Could it also be a decade off? Yeah, you don't know until it actually happens. Now, there are, again, things that you look at in bond and currency markets where you're kind of like, this is looking a little dodgy here.
Treasury auction on 20 years the other day.
Yeah, you had that as well as, the dollar selling off despite higher rates, and you're kind of like, oh, this is, a little bit funkalicious, I think is the technical term used by bond traders. That's not the term?
Yeah, I'm shaking my head. I'm not a bond trader. Maybe they do say funkalicious all the time.
They do. It's their favorite word to use when describing an auction. And so there are some weird things that are going on, but you still haven't seen things truly break. And trust me, you don't root for it, but if it does happen, you'll know when it happens. It's not something that just is quiet. Let's take a quick break. When we come back, let's talk about what Jamie Dimon has to say on the state of the U.S. economy, because, look, as much as he's been a great steward of, managing J.P. Morgan, I do have to admit his calls on the broader U.S. economy, not always the most accurate, but we'll still talk about them because he's Jamie Dimon right after this.
Get up-to-the-minute market updates with Wall Street Watch, weekdays at 10:30, only here on the Financial Exchange Radio Network. Creating an estate plan can be a difficult process if you aren't working with an expert who can make sure your plan is secure. Cushing & Dolan can help. Call them today at 866-848-5699. Estate planning is their business, and their new monthly guide is called Detour Ahead, Estate Planning Blunders to Avoid. Don't put your assets at risk and open yourself up to severe tax consequences. Even if you already have a plan, this guide may correct an issue that could come back to haunt you in the years to come. Proper estate planning is crucial to you being able to enjoy your later years, and it may be the difference between retiring comfortably or living under incredible financial pressure. Call Cushing & Dolan right now at 866-848-5699 and get your free guide today. That's 866-848-5699 or request it online from their website, LegalExchangeShow.com. The proceeding was paid for and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing & Armstrong do not endorse each other and are not affiliated. New Englanders love the Caribbean, and now there's a Caribbean travel channel available for you to learn all about Caribbean culture while you're planning your next trip to your favorite island. The TravelShareIt.com marketplace is loaded with information about the arts, festivals, food, and music throughout the Caribbean, and is an interactive website featuring daily travel deals to any island of your choice. Book your next Caribbean vacation on the most comprehensive travel channel for the islands, TravelShareIt.com. That's TravelShareIt.com.
This is Michael Valila, Adjutant of the Disabled American Veterans Department of Massachusetts. We focus on the people returning from service, not their specific illness or injury. Our number one goal is to make sure our veterans have the necessary services they need, be it physical, emotional, or financial, so that their transition can be seamless. You can help our great American heroes as well by making a donation today by visiting dav5k.boston. That's dav5k.boston.
Trust can play a key role in your financial strategy, and understanding the different kinds and their purpose may help you make the right decisions for your overall plan. Hi, this is Chuck Zodda from the Armstrong Advisory Group. Trusts are utilized for a variety of reasons, but the most basic use is to make settling an estate easier. Trusts have the ability to bypass probate, which can save you significant time and money while allowing your assets to be distributed directly to your beneficiaries. Our new guide this month is called Trusts in Your Financial Plan, and you can get it by calling 800-393-4001. Learn about trusts and their possible benefits to your financial strategy by requesting your free guide today. That number again is 800-393-4001, or request it online at armstrongadvisory.com. That's armstrongadvisory.com.
The proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services.
Hey, listen, are you a 50-year-old person looking for term life insurance? Then you need to talk to Bob. Bob specializes in helping people find $1 million or more of term life insurance for a couple of $100 a month. Look, you need to know there's a price war in the term life insurance business, and you may be paying too much. Call Bob, and he'll shop and see how much money he can save you. Look, this could be the last term life insurance policy you ever have. Your rates are guaranteed for the next 20 years. That's right, guaranteed level rates for the next 20 years. And if you're a smoker or your health is not perfect, Bob has great rates for you too. So for $1 million of term life insurance coverage for a couple of $100 a month, call Bob right now. 800-965-7987. 800-965-7987. 800-965-7987. That's 800-965-7987. Paid for by Term Direct.
Miss any of the show? The Financial Exchange Show podcast is available on Apple, Spotify, and iHeartRadio. Hit the subscribe button and leave us a 5-star review. This is the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
This segment of the Financial Exchange is brought to you in part by Margaritaville Resort Cape Cod in Hyannis. Looking for a great vacation spot? Look no further than Margaritaville Resort Cape Cod. Located just off Route 6, Margaritaville Resort Cape Cod is perfect for a weekend getaway or fun-filled family vacation. You'll enjoy first-class accommodations and dining, our incredible Fins Up water park, and of course, the gorgeous pageantry of the Cape. Visit Margaritaville Resorts CapeCod.com for reservations and more information.
I want to talk about Jamie Dimon. He was at the Global China Summit in Shanghai, representing J.P. Morgan, the bank for which he works for as the CEO.
For the last 15, 20 years?
He's been there for quite a while. Yeah. And Dimon, look, he's an absolutely excellent operator. JP Morgan consistently stays out of trouble that a lot of other banks get into. I won't name names like, Wells Fargo or Credit Suisse or UBS or, those guys. But
06, by the way. He's been CEO of
19 years then.
Of JP Morgan since 06, yeah.
19 years. It's not to say that, like, JP Morgan didn't have any problems during the financial crisis, but more just that, hey, they weren't the epicenter of them. They were, kind of playing along rather than leading the charge. So a couple of years ago, back at the end of 22, he, I think it's famously said, there's a storm brewing and there's a hurricane coming, talking about the U.S. economy heading into 23. And 2023 and 24 turned out to be some of the best years that we've had, both in markets as well as, I won't say best years in the economy, but they were good years, still plagued by high inflation, but low unemployment and improving economic data as opposed to, continuing to weaken into recession.
Yeah. The only criticism you can levy at the 23 and 24 economies, if you're to take a look at them, would be A, still coming off high inflation, so sentiment was bad.
Inflation was still high, though.
It was. And B,
high deficits.
Deficits are crazy.
Yep. So you had those two problems. So here's what you've got Dimon saying now. He's talking about, there's, potentially some inflationary problems that you're running up against. There is potentially a slowdown. Globally, what's the relationship between U.S. and China look like, and how does that impact where the economy goes? And, Dimon was, kind of... I watched the full remarks, and, he said some things in particular. He was talking about credit risk and low-quality borrowers, not just individuals, but corporates. And he was kind of like, I don't know that I want to be taking on any kind of credit risk right now. I mean, he was talking kind of bearishly. And on one hand, you look at it and you're like, oh, this is just Jamie being Jamie, same old 2022, womp womp, have fun staying poor, Jamie Dimon, like all that kind of stuff. On the other hand, he's got a pretty good, finger on the pulse of what's going on. And yes, like, was wrong at the end of 2022, but ultimately everyone who runs, any kind of major investment firm is not right all the time. So when he says something, you take note of it, you put it in your file, and you say, okay, let's see how everything else stacks up. Ultimately, I don't think it's more than that, because I don't think he has any, unique insight into predicting what will or will not happen with the economy, as evidenced by 2022.
Previous experience. Yeah, look, great operator of a bank, but do I put more credence into his worries about stagflation than the average person on the street? Yeah, but significantly more. I'm just not sure, where to put that. He expresses concerns about the dollar, reducing dollar assets. He expressed a number of different concerns. It's still tough for me to get to the stagflation one. It's just tough for me to wrap my arms around how we get to stagflation when, we'll be covering the OPEC Plus increasing oil production story soon. We'll be talking about general de-escalation of trade tariffs over the last several weeks. It's still difficult for me to envision that stagflation. I can predict, I can see how a recession gets there. I can see how a global economic slowdown gets there. We are seeing that in other parts of the world. I just have a tough time seeing how we get to that combined with high inflation in the U.S. in the short term. So,
yeah, look, ultimately, I think, I say this a lot, but knowing exactly, like, having the right name for what you're going through is less important than watching the trajectory of growth and inflation and adapting as they change. Did you need to know that inflation was going to 9% in 2022 in order to be successful? No, all you needed to know that it was going up and it was accelerating.
Yeah.
Like you didn't need, and then hey, when it started to tail off, that's what you needed to know. Then to know that equities had a chance to rip in 23 and 24. Today, I think the question is, again, growth and inflation. We get too complicated in a lot of this stuff. The only stuff that matters is what's going on with growth and what's going on with inflation. Growth, I do think we can say, slowing from last year. How much it slows is going to be the question. Like, you could have it slow and GDP growth bottoms at 1 and there's no recession and everything's fine. It could go down and go negative and, you see layoffs and this and that and it's bad. Inflation, probably moving up, but we haven't seen the data yet. And it also depends what happens with demand. And if demand slows enough, does inflation stick or does it just, price increases can't be upheld and instead you just get demand destruction and that's what happens there. So I think it's a complex system that we're heading into here. I don't know exactly how the next 9 months are going to play out, but you've got a lot of things moving, and we'll just have to see. Let's take a quick break. When we come back, we got Wall Street Watch, and then we're talking Nike.
Like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter @TFE Show. Breaking business news is always first, right here on the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
Did you outgrow your timeshare and now you want out? But you can't. You can't sell it, and you can't get out of the contract. Imagine trying to get out of your mortgage. That's what a timeshare is. You can't just call up the bank and say, I don't want to pay it anymore. But we may be able to help you do just that. Listen, a timeshare maybe for you once was a great thing, but now you don't use it much. And they are not easy to get rid of. Plus, you do have to pay for it every month. Qualified timeshare owners can get out of their contract legally and permanently without ruining your credit or even filing bankruptcy. And imagine, no more mortgage payment or fees. Call the Timeshare Exit Hotline qualification line now. It's free to learn more.
800-455-7967. 800-455-7967. 800-455-7967. That's 800-455-7967. Paid for by Timeshare Defense.
There are critical mistakes you can make during the estate planning process that may have a damaging effect on your financial strategy. Cushing & Dolan's new guide is called Detour Ahead, Estate Planning Blunders to Avoid. Get yours today and make the right decisions to protect your assets. Call 866-848-5699. That's 866-848-5699 or request it online at legalexchangeshow.com. The proceeding was paid for and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing & Armstrong do not endorse each other and are not affiliated.
This is Michael Valila, Adjutant of the Disabled American Veterans Department of Massachusetts. The DAV of Massachusetts has helped me and countless others adjust to civilian life through a variety of incredible programs. Through our local Veterans Assistance Program, we provide necessary services to veterans and their communities, such as food shopping, landscaping, and companionship, but we need your support. You can help by making a donation today. Please visit dav5k.boston. That's dav5k.boston.
Hi, this is Mike Armstrong from the Armstrong Advisory Group. Estate and financial planning go hand in hand, and one of the most common ways to keep that bond secure is with a trust. Our new guide, called Trusts in Your Financial Plan, is available right now. In it, we'll discuss the various types of trusts that exist and how they might benefit your planning process. Trusts provide a number of different protections for your assets, including privacy, control, and tax efficiency. If you're retired or nearing retirement and have concerns about your financial strategy and whether or not a trust may help, call us today at 800-393-4001 and ask for your free guide called Trusts and Your Financial Plan. Learn about how a trust could make a difference for you and your family by calling 800-393-4001. That number again is 800-393-4001, or you can request the guide from ArmstrongAdvisory.com.
The proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services.
This is Tucker Silva of the Financial Exchange Show, and I'm joined today by estate planning attorney Todd Lutzke with your Financial Exchange Quick Tip of the Day. And today, we're talking about the top estate planning mistakes to avoid. Todd, a lot of people create their estate plan, but there are some that don't actually transfer assets into it. Can you explain why this is such a big mistake?
Sure. I'm going to try to explain it both from a revocable and an irrevocable planning standpoint. With the revocable, if you don't put assets in there, you end up leaving them owned perhaps jointly if you're married, and designated beneficiaries and the like. But if everything goes to the spouse, when one dies, then you've completely avoided your estate plan. In other words, you've set your trust up, but you went around it by leaving everything to the spouse instead of going through it by funding the trust and cramming down the assets to shelter some from estate taxes on the first death, so there's less taxed on the second death. And ultimately, on the second death, if you don't plan, there could be a probate problem because everything would go to probate if it's in their own name. The other big reason is with an irrevocable trust, of course, not funding it also can result in estate tax problems by the same way it did with the revocable trust. But in addition to not funding them with the irrevocable, you don't even begin the 5-year waiting period to get the assets protected from the nursing home. So there's a much bigger problem not funding an irrevocable trust versus not funding a revocable trust. So make sure you fund your trust if you do your planning.
Well, luckily, Todd Lutzke and the estate planning experts at Cushing & Dolan have written a brand new guide that details the estate planning blunders to avoid. You can request this brand new guide by simply calling 866-848-5699, 866-848-5699, or you can request it from their website, legalexchangeshow.com.
The proceeding was paid for, and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and/or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing & Armstrong do not endorse each other and are not affiliated. Time now for Wall Street Watch, a complete look at what's moving markets so far today, right here on the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
Well, following yesterday's sell-off driven by concerns that the tax bill could worsen the U.S. deficit, thus sending Treasury yields higher, markets today are in mixed territory. Earlier this morning, the tax bill cleared the House and now advances to the Senate. At the moment, the Dow is down by 0.2%, S&P 500 is flat, and the NASDAQ is up 0.6% or 111 points. Russell 2000 retreating by about 0.25%. 10-year Treasury flat at the moment, now at 4.59%, and crude oil is down about 1% lower, trading just around $61 a barrel. According to the Wall Street Journal, Walmart plans to cut about 1,500 corporate jobs in a restructuring initiative aimed at trimming expenses and speeding up decision-making. A spokesman from Walmart noted that the plans were not related to tariffs. Walmart shares are dipping into negative territory. Meanwhile, a couple of items surrounding Nike this morning, where the athletic apparel and sneaker maker announced plans to resume sales of its products on Amazon for the first time in more than 5 years. Separately, CNBC is reporting that Nike will raise prices on a wide range of its products as soon as this week, as it braces for tariffs to hit its products. Nike shares are up 1.5%, and Chuck and Mike will have more on Nike in a matter of moments. Elsewhere, health insurance stocks are trading lower after the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services announced an aggressive expansion of Medicare Advantage audits. Humana retreating 4%, while CVS Health and United Health are down by about 2%. Lumen Technology shares are up 2% after AT&T agreed to acquire substantially all of Lumen's mass markets fiber internet connectivity business. The $5.75 billion deal is set to close in the first half of 2026. Snowflake up by 9% after the cloud software company upped its annual guidance after logging higher sales in the previous quarter. And Advance Auto Parts jumping by 45% after the car parts retailer posted better than expected quarterly results and backed its 2025 guidance. I'm Tucker Silva, and that's Wall Street Watch.
Nike is going to be raising prices on a bunch of stuff soon. I'll quote here from the CNBC piece. Prices for Nike apparel and equipment for adults will increase between $2 and $10, a person familiar with the matter said. Footwear priced between $100 and $150 will see a hike of $5, while sneakers priced above $150 will see a $10 increase, the person said. The price hikes will be in effect by June 1st, but could be seen on shelves as soon as this week. The increases cover a large portion of Nike's assortment, but many products will remain the same price. And Nike, I'll also quote from here, Nike said in a statement, "We regularly evaluate our business and make pricing adjustments as part of our seasonal planning. The company did not say the decision was related to tariffs." Hint, the decision was related to tariffs.
Yeah.
No one wants to say it, obviously.
It's using the Walmart cover, but look, it's clearly related to tariffs. They do a ton of manufacturing in Vietnam. Vietnam faces currently a 10% tariff rate. They were facing a 47% tariff rate. Don't know where they will face a tariff rate in 60 days from now. 60 days? Somewhere in that general time frame when these things come back up for negotiation. And yeah, they are following suit. Nike has, operating margins in the mid to low teens. So, they're a little bit richer in terms of margin than, say, Walmart, but they still aren't just going to eat these increased costs that they are going to be facing at the border when they import their shoes. And so, unsurprisingly, yeah, they're finding ways to layer these prices in somewhere.
Yeah, the 90-day window for these, or at least initial window for these tariff negotiations, ends on Tuesday, July 8th. So that's the date that we are waiting for, which now is only about 45 days away.
Right. Yeah, it'll be around the corner here. I can't think of many companies that must do less manufacturing in the United States. I mean, at that scale, Nike,
Dollar General.
Yeah.
Well, they don't manufacture,
right.
But they just buy stuff that's not made in the United States.
Yeah. Just few retailers are so exposed to this as these companies. I was also reading a bit about a few years ago when both Under Armour and Nike attempted to, try to manufacture in the United States. I think Under Armour did it back in the mid 2010s. They started up a bunch of manufacturing in Baltimore. Nike did the same. I don't remember where. And they tested it out for a couple of years and kind of failed miserably. The fact of the matter is that we don't make a lot of footwear in the United States. Doing so requires a fair bit of talent that we no longer have. And the costs were pretty insurmountable that you face to try to bring this stuff back to the United States. Yes, there are some companies that do it. I think New Balance famously still does some manufacturing here in the U.S., but even they have shifted a lot of it overseas.
They still do a good chunk of it here. I mean, I know that you can go through some smaller brands, but of the big ones, a lot of it is overseas just because of the economies of scale and everything. And again, that's just kind of what it is. Yeah, if you go higher end, you get more that are manufactured in the U.S. because you can offset the costs, a little bit more in that space. But that's kind of where things land. A Wall Street Journal exclusive: Walmart is going to be cutting 1,500 corporate jobs in part of a restructuring. Obviously, in the context of 1.6 million U.S. workers, this is a drop in the bucket.
2.1 million global workers, 1.6 here in the U.S. Obviously, so these are all corporate jobs, all white-collar jobs. And I was doing some searching. I could not figure out how many corporate jobs that they have. Obviously, the vast majority of Walmart employees are working in retail stores, making them one of the largest employers in the country and in the world. But, 1,500 jobs, even at the corporate level, is probably still a drop in the bucket for Walmart's overall corporate employment, would be my guess. But it does follow along. Microsoft just last week announcing their cuts of about 3,500 workers, and now Walmart with, some restructuring here and job cuts.
And this is how you try to manage margins if you have higher input costs that are coming through. This is what we typically see.
Raise prices, cut jobs.
I think this is going to be the question of, hey, what magnitude of job cuts do you need to see? And not just job cuts, but what do we see happening with job openings, and how quickly are companies, filling jobs that are, out there? I'm trying to pull it up right now just because I know it's here somewhere. I can never find it when I want to. Oh, here we go. Nope, I got it coming right now. Indeed is a great source. Again, they're not like the be-all and end-all for jobs data, but again, they give you a pretty good idea of what's happening in real time. And what we're seeing right now is that job openings really have been on a continued downtrend since early 2022.
Sure.
If you look at Indeed's job index, it's fallen by about, call it 30% since then. And year over year, the Indeed Jobs Index is down 8.7%. Week over week, it's up 0.2. So I think this kind of reflects, hey, in the new environment, post-China rollback of tariffs, there's been a little bit of stability the last few weeks in this index. And so at least, kind of the immediate declines have halted. Is that a trend with staying power? I think is a worthwhile question to ask. Or Is this just another brief pause, of which we've seen a few of these? And does this resume, kind of a downward march that it's been on for the last, 3 years now?
Right. It is a Thursday, so every Thursday we do get a read on filings for unemployment. Last week, the week ending May 17th, that advanced figure came in at 227,000 new filings for unemployment claims across the country. That was actually a decrease of about 2,000 from the previous week. The insured unemployment during the week ending May 10th sat at 1.903 million. So these are the number of people that are still on those unemployment rolls. That was an increase of 36,000 from the previous week's revised level. So again, we are hearing announcements here and there, but I think the continued story would be that on the government's official numbers of unemployment, we're not seeing much that's overly concerning.
Not even on the government's official numbers. Basically everything that we're seeing right now, whether private data or government data, is not really showing any huge inflection in the last month or two.
Neither in hiring nor firing.
I would say in basically any data.
Yeah.
I mean, is there any data point that you look at out there and you're like, man, this has really changed in the last month or two from the trend it was on before?
Bond rates.
That's not
rates
data.
on long-term treasuries.
That's a price, not a data point.
Yeah.
There's nothing else out there. There's nothing out there when you look at data about human behavior that says there's been any meaningful shift yet. It doesn't mean that it won't happen.
Sure.
But I do think it means there hasn't been anything yet. Is it too soon for it to have developed? Maybe. We'll see what... I think we'll have a much better sense after the summer. I know that that's, not what anyone wants to hear because everyone wants answers now. What's the economy going to do now? Tell me now. No one knows what it's going to do now. But to this point, it's basically been doing what it was doing before.
Mm-hmm.
And if that changes, trust me, we'll talk about it here.
We'll let you know.
If it gets better, we'll let you know. If it gets worse, we'll let you know too. But right now, it's basically doing the same thing that it was before. Let's take a quick break. When we come back, we'll talk about OPEC Plus and their latest decisions on production levels after this.
Text us at 617-362-1385 with your comments and questions about today's show, and let us know what you think about the stories we are covering. This is the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
Hi, this is Mike Armstrong from the Armstrong Advisory Group. Estate and financial planning go hand in hand, and one of the most common ways to keep that bond secure is with a trust. Our new guide, called Trusts in Your Financial Plan, is available right now. In it, we'll discuss the various types of trusts that exist and how they might benefit your planning process. Trusts provide a number of different protections for your assets, including privacy, control, and tax efficiency. If you're retired or nearing retirement and have concerns about your financial strategy and whether or not a trust may help, call us today at 800-393-4001 and ask for your free guide called Trusts and Your Financial Plan. Learn about how a trust could make a difference for you and your family by calling 800-393-4001. That number again is 800-393-4001, or you can request the guide from ArmstrongAdvisory.com.
The proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services. The United States Virgin Islands is consistently voted one of the top Caribbean destinations. And recently, 2 of their beaches, Trunk Bay in St. John and Magens Bay in St. Thomas, were voted a top 10 best beach in the Caribbean at the 2025 Traveler's Choice Best of the Best Awards. From the pristine beaches to its world-class dining, rich history, incredible golf, and perfect weather, the USVI has everything you need to make memories that will last a lifetime. From the moment you arrive, you will fall naturally in rhythm with the heartbeat of the islands. There's no money to exchange, and travel from New England could not be easier. Whether you're looking for a romantic getaway or a family vacation, the U.S. Virgin Islands is the perfect place for your next adventure. Go to visitusvi.com right now for more information and to book your trip. The USVI is America's Caribbean paradise. Go to visitusvi.com today. That's visitusvi.com. Creating an estate plan can be a difficult process if you aren't working with an expert who can make sure your plan is secure. Cushing & Dolan can help. Call them today at 866-848-5699. Estate planning is their business, and their new monthly guide is called Detour Ahead, Estate Planning Blunders to Avoid. Don't put your assets at risk and open yourself up to severe tax consequences. Even if you already have a plan, this guide may correct an issue that could come back to haunt you in the years to come. Proper estate planning is crucial to you being able to enjoy your later years, and it may be the difference between retiring comfortably or living under incredible financial pressure. Call Cushing & Dolan right now at 866-848-5699 and get your free guide today. That's 866-848-5699 or request it online from their website, legalexchangeshow.com. The proceeding was paid for and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing & Armstrong do not endorse each other and are not affiliated.
Is it a stroke? Even if you're not sure, act fast and call 911. Signs can include face drooping on one side, arm weakness, speech difficulty, or not making sense when talking. Time is critical. A stroke requires immediate medical care, which starts as soon as the ambulance arrives. So if you see any sign of stroke, act fast and call 911. Visit mass.gov/stroke, sponsored by the Massachusetts Department of Public Health.
Celebrate the arrival of summer with the best of what's local and fresh. Farmers markets across Massachusetts are packed with vibrant produce, pasture-raised meats, local seafood, small batch cheeses, and artisan-made goods. From ripe strawberries to artisan finds, markets are the soul of our neighborhoods. Stop by your community market and support farmers and local makers. Sponsored by Mass Farmers Markets, helping grow farmers markets across the state. Find your local market at massfarmersmarkets.org.
Miss any of the show? Catch up at your convenience by visiting financialexchangeshow.com and clicking the on-demand icon where you'll find all of our interviews and full shows. This is your home for the latest business and financial news in New England and around the country. This is the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
The Financial Exchange is a proud partner of the Disabled American Veterans Department of Massachusetts, and as we get set to honor our veterans on Memorial Day, now's the perfect time to register for this year's 5K at Castle Island by visiting dav5k.boston. The event will sell out again, so if you're interested in participating, now's the time to reserve your spot. Come out and help support our great American heroes by joining us for the DAV 5K. Visit dav5k.boston to register or to make a donation today. That's dav5k.boston.
OPEC Plus. Drop the plus.
Just get rid of it.
Well, here's the thing. So you have all of these countries that are not in OPEC but still try to cooperate with them. What's actually like the dividing line? Like, there's no enforcement mechanism within OPEC. It's not like you join them and it's like, well, the OPEC inspectors are here. We're going to have to do what they say.
Do you not get to attend the special meetings, though, if you're in the plus?
It sounds like you still like discuss these things and meet. You know, like, I'll even read. This is from Wikipedia. So
you don't get a membership pin, I don't think.
What? But
they also don't tell you the secret handshake.
I bet the OPEC Plus secret handshake is great, but it says the collaboration among OPEC Plus member countries has led to the establishment of the Declaration of Cooperation, the DOC, in 2017, which has been subsequently extended multiple times due to its remarkable success. So it's basically like, we're cooperating, we're doing all the OPEC stuff anyways. Why not just like be like, hey, we're all the way in on OPEC? It's not like you have to do anything different.
Yeah.
And why would OPEC not want these other countries in there?
I don't have answers for you.
I don't either.
In either case, they are going to produce more oil.
Yes, they are talking about an output hike of another 411,000 barrels a day for July. This would be triple the amount that is initially planned. They're expecting to make a final decision at a June 1st gathering. I also don't know where they meet. Is it just on Zoom? I mean, these countries are not exactly close together. You know, it's like, again, just within OPEC, not even including the plus. Okay, so you got the Saudis, the Algerians, and the Venezuelans. That's a pretty big triangle that you gotta cover.
They have these things now called private jets, though, that
they do
make it pretty easy to get to Saudi Arabia.
They do, but like,
quickly.
do you really need to get together in order to be like, yeah, let's raise the price, raise the pump as much as we can?
Yes, you do. In reaction, U.S. oil prices falling. West Texas crude down about 0.9% today. We're down to $61 a barrel on this. Great news for pretty much all Americans that don't work in the oil industry.
Yeah.
That's going to be a problem for getting oil out of American wells at these prices. They can still make a profit at $60 a barrel would be my guess on most of this stuff, but not a heavy one, and certainly you're not drilling any. You're probably not making any big offshore drilling investments at these prices would be my guess.
No, I think that's a fair, again, it's just something where, listen, you can have more U.S. oil production or you can have low prices. You can't really have both.
I sure liked my $2.76 a gallon gas at BJ's yesterday, though.
It's great. It's wonderful.
Yeah.
But it doesn't result in more production in the U.S. because they got spooked, by the way, by this exact thing back in 2015 when Russia and the Saudis were like, hey, you know what would be nice? Market share, and decided to just pump a bunch of oil out of the ground and put a ton of U.S. shale producers out of business.
It's a tougher question to answer. Is really cheap oil a net positive or net negative for the United States? I think it's still a net positive, but not in the same way that it was.
So the
in the
data
70s
I've
and
seen
80s.
is that it's pretty much a push.
Is it?
It's pretty much a push now.
Yeah.
And it part of it's just because we export so much nat gas at this point that, remember, you say like oil, nat gas, like why are those the same? They're not the same. But here's the deal. The vast majority of new production of oil in the U.S. comes from shale deposits and fracking. Huge byproduct of shale deposits, bunch of nat gas. And so if you don't have that, it is a significant drag on the U.S. economy because you lose a huge net export, and it also raises prices for us domestically, especially here in the Northeast where, oh, by the way, guess how we get our nat gas here in the Northeast? We take it on a big boat instead of having a pipeline that just transports it automatically. Hey, let's take the nat gas, freeze it. Let's make it really, really, really freaking cold, like negative 200 degrees, and then put it on a boat that we have to have helicopters watching because it's so dangerous to transport as it goes in and out of harbors. And then instead of just shipping it up a pipeline, from Pennsylvania where you get the nat gas, we're instead going to ship it like all the way around the country, basically, in order to get it into the New England region. That seems reasonable.
I wonder why it's so expensive.
I wonder why our electricity costs are triple the national average. I wonder why. Do you think that's part of it?
No. This was like I had a Mass Save guy over who's like, oh, man, you have oil. That was the first time oil made more sense than nat gas in like 2 decades this winter. Congratulations.
It's one of these things, man. It's one of these things.
We have unique ways of doing things here in the Northeast, Chuck.
We do. I mean, I still think it's great. Like, you talk to someone...
Cheap hydroelectricity from Canada? Pass.
I just think it's great. Like, you talk to someone about home heating oil who's not from around here, and they're like, I don't know what that is.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. My cousins in Arizona just are constantly confused about what I'm talking about when the oil man comes to the house.
Yeah, you have an engine in your house that you have to... No, like, we burn the oil for heat. Is it whale oil? No, it's not whale oil. Well, what kind of oil is it? I don't know, but it's heating oil. It doesn't come from whales. It's the only thing I know. Well, how do you get it? Don't know that either.
A nice man in a truck.
Yeah, a guy in a truck shows up and pumps it into the house. Oh, how often do they do that? Once or twice a year, depending on how cold it is.
Yep.
Oh, great. Good luck with that. Hey, it's been working out fine for us for quite a while. We're going to take a quick break here. When we come back, we got hour 2. We're talking about a big move from OpenAI after this.
Cardiovascular disease is the #1 killer of women,
taking the lives of 1 in 3.
That's more than all forms of cancer combined.
For too long, heart disease and stroke have taken the lives of the women we love.
But we're not giving up because we have something better,
stronger, more powerful.
We have each other.
When we come together and go red,
the more power we have against our greatest health threat.
Visit GoRedForWomen.org today to learn more.
As a busy mom to 4 kids, my to-do list is full.
Trying to fit in exercise, eating right, and prioritizing self-care can feel next to impossible.
While we can't add more hours to the day, we do have a great resource to help.
Go Red for Women has easy tips, tools, and information to help you and your family live a healthier life.
So to all the moms, the aunts, grandmothers, and amazing women out there doing it all,
visit goredforwomen.org/momlife today.
You take care of them, Go Red for Women will take care of you.
Are you over the age of 50? Want peace of mind and financial security for your family? Here's an important message to you from Senior Care USA. The average funeral now costs over $10,000. That leaves your loved ones the burden of paying your debts and funeral costs. Our plans start as low as $1 per day and will pay your family up to $30,000 to help pay for your funeral and other expenses. There are no medical exams. Your rates will never increase, and your plan cannot be canceled, regardless of your medical conditions, as long as you make your premium payments. Get up to $30,000 in final expense insurance. Call now for free information. Just answer a few simple questions and get approved right over the phone in just a few minutes. Call right now.
Call 800-378-3818. 800-378-3818. 800-378-3818. That's 800-378-3818. Hey, listen, are you a 50-year-old person looking for term life insurance? Then you need to talk to Bob. Bob specializes in helping people find $1 million or more of term life insurance for a couple of $100 a month. Look, you need to know there's a price war in the term life insurance business, and you may be paying too much. Call Bob, and he'll shop and see how much money he can save you. Look, this could be the last term life insurance policy you ever have. Your rates are guaranteed for the next 20 years. That's right, guaranteed level rates for the next 20 years. And if you're a smoker or your health is not perfect, Bob has great rates for you too. So for $1 million of term life insurance coverage for a couple of $100 a month, call Bob right now. 800-965-7987. 800-965-7987. 800-965-7987. That's 800-965-7987. Paid for by Term Direct.
This is the Money Matters Radio Network. WBNW 1120 AM and W275 CM FM. Concord, Boston. The Money Matters Radio Network.
Did you outgrow your timeshare and now you want out? But you can't. You can't sell it, and you can't get out of the contract. Imagine trying to get out of your mortgage. That's what a timeshare is. You can't just call up the bank and say, I don't want to pay it anymore. But we may be able to help you do just that. Listen, a timeshare maybe for you once was a great thing, but now you don't use it much. And they are not easy to get rid of. Plus, you do have to pay for it every month. Qualified timeshare owners can get out of their contract legally and permanently without ruining your credit or even filing bankruptcy. And imagine, no more mortgage payment or fees. Call the Timeshare Exit Hotline qualification line now. It's free to learn more.
800-455-7967. 800-455-7967. 800-455-7967. That's 800-455-7967. Paid for by Timeshare Defense.
The United States Virgin Islands is consistently voted one of the top Caribbean destinations. And recently, 2 of their beaches, Trunk Bay in St. John and Maggins Bay in St. Thomas, were voted a top 10 best beach in the Caribbean at the 2025 Traveler's Choice Best of the Best Awards. From the pristine beaches to its world-class dining, rich history, incredible golf, and perfect weather, the USVI has everything you need to make memories that will last a lifetime. From the moment you arrive, you will fall naturally in rhythm with the heartbeat of the islands. There's no money to exchange, and travel from New England could not be easier. Whether you're looking for a romantic getaway or a family vacation, the U.S. Virgin Islands is the perfect place for your next adventure. Go to visitusvi.com right now for more information and to book your trip. The USVI is America's Caribbean paradise. Go to visitusvi.com today. That's visitusvi.com.
It happens all over Massachusetts. In every home and every community.
Be careful on your bike.
Learning can happen anytime, anywhere. We'll see you at practice this weekend. And no matter how learning takes place in your family's life, DESE is there as your partner. The Massachusetts Department of Elementary and Secondary Education. Never stop learning. Find out more at mass.gov/back-to-school.
Sponsored by the Massachusetts Department for Elementary and Secondary Education.
Margaritaville Resort Cape Cod is perfect for your next New England vacation. Located just off Route 6 in Hyannis, the resort has everything you need to enjoy an incredible week with your family or a quick weekend getaway. Along with first-class accommodations and food, Fins Up Water Park is packed with aquatic adventures that will keep the kids entertained for hours. The summer season is coming soon, so make plans today for a fun-filled vacation at Margaritaville Resort Cape Cod. For more information and to book your trip, visit MargaritavilleResortsCapeCod.com.
Hi, it's Chuck and Mike from the Armstrong Advisory Group, and we have a guide available this month titled Trusts in Your Financial Plan. Mike, a lot of times when we talk about financial planning, it's with the idea of having your money available to you to use when you need to use it. How do trusts work to kind of keep that idea going, not just for yourself, but also for the next generation as well?
Sure, and it doesn't always need to be the next generation, because how many times have you heard somebody say, hey, look, I raised my kids, they're in a good spot, I want the less check I write to bounce. I'm spending this money. But, there can be situations where trust can benefit even a married couple in the event of a lawsuit or a nursing home that's unexpected, especially if there's a big age gap. That can be critical. But for next generation planning, it gets much more common, and especially in the New England area where most states have an estate tax, there's a lot that can be done from a multi-generational planning perspective to, if not eliminate those taxes, at least mitigate them to a large degree. I mean, you think about here in New England, the value of your primary residence, which you sell, it might not be subject to capital gains tax, but if you die, is most certainly subject to estate taxes. There's a lot that can be done in the way of trust planning.
Our guide this month is titled Trusts in Your Financial Plan, and you can request it by calling 800-393-4001. Again, that number is 800-393-4001, and the guide this month is titled Trusts in Your Financial Plan and details a number of ideas about how you can fit trusts into your financial plan.
The proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services. The Financial Exchange is produced by Money Matters Radio and is hosted by employees of the Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. All opinions expressed are solely those of the hosts, do not reflect the opinions of Armstrong Advisory or anyone else. Investments can lose money. This program does not offer any specific financial or investment advice. Please consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong Advisory and the advertisers heard on this program do not endorse each other or their services. Armstrong and Money Matters Radio do not compensate each other for referrals and are not affiliated. This is the Financial Exchange with Chuck Zodda and Mike Armstrong. Your exclusive look at business and financial news affecting your day, your city, your world. Stay informed and up to date about economic and market trends, plus breaking business news every day. The Financial Exchange is a proud partner of the Disabled American Veterans Department of Massachusetts. Help us support our great American heroes by visiting dav5k.boston and making a donation today. This is the Financial Exchange with Chuck Zodda and Mike Armstrong.
Hour 2 here on the Financial Exchange. It is Chuck, Mike, and Tucker with you, and we've got stocks not really doing much of anything today, at least in the aggregate. We actually have a bunch of stocks down in the S&P 500. I've got 243 more losers than winners right now. But remind me if you've heard this story before. NVIDIA's positive, Microsoft's positive, Amazon's positive, Tesla's positive, Google's positive, Meta's positive. And so as a result, the S&P is flat on the day, quite literally, like it's not moving at all. The Dow is off 40 points. The NASDAQ, as a result of being heavy in those tech names, is up 84. So again, kind of a mixed market, but no clear direction that we are seeing. 10-year, after selling off a little bit earlier in the day, the 10-year Treasury yield is actually down 0.7 of a basis point to 4.589 after running up a little bit yesterday. Longer-term 30-year bond selling off a little bit more, up another 2 basis points to 5.112% at the moment. We've got oil, West Texas Intermediate, hitting $60.94 today. It's down 63 cents on the day. And gold is down $11.80 to $33.01.70. Anything else catching your eye today, Mike?
No. Those yield moves are pressuring mortgage rates. They're pressuring a lot of stuff to do with the housing market. And I think, well, frankly, the coming weeks while the Senate works through this tax bill are going to be critical to keep an eye on that bond market and see just whether or not there's any real sustained pressure on lawmakers when it comes to the tax bill.
Let's take a look at this piece from Bloomberg, and it's talking about yesterday we saw the announcement that OpenAI was going to be acquiring, what the heck's the name of the company?
I don't know. It's Jony Ive's creative company.
IO, I think it is how, lowercase IO. It's a $6.5 billion deal for OpenAI to acquire Ive's company.
Jony Ive, if you're unfamiliar, worked at Apple for years, helped design the iPhone, helped design the iPad or MacBook. What did he work on? All sorts of design stuff.
He was Steve Jobs' right-hand man when it came to design. Tim Cook ran the business. I've basically made everything look the way you're familiar with it. So if you know anything about like how Apple stuff looks, that's Ive at work, basically. He left there, what was it, maybe 6-7 years ago now?
Yeah.
Like 2016, 2017, somewhere in that ballpark. And here is the deal. This is basically a deal to bring Ive on board to OpenAI. The actual company that he has, I don't know that there's too much meat there. Maybe there is, maybe there isn't. But it seems, and I'll quote here from the Wall Street Journal in a Wall Street Journal exclusive, Altman and I have offered few hints at the secret project they've been working on. The product will be capable of being fully aware of a user's surroundings and life and will be unobtrusive, able to rest in one's pocket or on one's desk, and will be a third core device a person would put on a desk after a MacBook Pro and an iPhone.
So what do we know about what they're designing? They don't want it to be a phone. They don't want it to be a wearable.
They don't want it to have a screen.
So it's a speaker.
It sounds like a speaker.
Yeah.
JBL.
A pocket speaker.
A pocket speaker.
Okay.
A pocker or a peaker, if you will.
Right.
Or a spocket.
So one, the title from Bloomberg about the long shot bet to kill the iPhone doesn't really seem likely given that they don't want to design a phone together.
No, they don't want to kill it, but I don't think Steve Jobs wanted to kill the CD player either. I think it was just a consequence of the iPod and how it was designed.
Right.
Once music migrated to digital formats, it wasn't going back, and now we have new cars that don't have CD players in them.
Yeah. It also informs us a bit about OpenAI and ChatGPT's kind of longer term aspirations, which is we don't just want to be a software player. I think.
I disagree.
Do you?
They want to be a software player, but they're facing the same thing that Meta's facing.
Right.
Which is they don't want to be beholden to a series of the devices that forces them to operate the way those devices want. The reason that Meta is all about the metaverse, or that what they were all about the metaverse, isn't because Mark Zuckerberg has this infatuation with, getting away from reality.
I'm not convinced of that.
His reality's pretty good.
Yeah.
Like I'm sure he's pretty okay with how things are. It's because they don't want to be stuck on Apple devices playing by Apple's rules when it comes to data collection and advertising and this and that. They want to own the device. And I think this is the same thing.
Yeah.
OpenAI wants to own the device that is collecting all of the data, because then you have all of the data.
Because right now, if you're using ChatGPT, you're using it either on a PC, on an iPhone, or on another device
Yes.
that governs how the data is stored, what they do with the user information, and what information is shared back to OpenAI.
So, couple different ways to approach this. The first is to be really skeptical and be like, hey, this is a dumb idea. And quite honestly, probably like a 90% chance that's the case.
Yep. As with any brand new big idea hardware product.
Most of them fail. It's not to like bash these guys. It's just most of the time new tech hardware doesn't take off. I mean, think about all the stuff we've been pitched in the last 20 years. From the glasses, the Google Glass.
Do you guys remember the mini disc player?
Sure, the mini disc player.
I had one of those bad boys.
That's skipped all the time.
Google Glass, 3D TVs, freaking Segways. I mean, like the list is long in terms of tech hardware
that fails
that just
in spectacular
never actually
fashion.
Delivered.
Yeah.
Do you remember like the AI pins that everyone was going to be wearing last year that got those horrible reviews?
Yep.
There's lots of this stuff. So the baseline, and this is, again, not to poo-poo them, but just like, hey, probably this is going to be a nothing burger. But you think about it and you say, okay, like, how could this be something that is interesting beyond just being a speaker?
Well, it's just hard to narrow down what it would be because they don't want it to be a screen. They don't want it to be a wearable. So what the hell is it?
It seems to be a personal assistant type device would be my only guess. And
so
you don't need to create a phone to replace and replicate a whole bunch of the things that a phone can do. And so, yeah, I am kind of coming back to I guess, more usable and more compact version of a home assistant device like an Alexa or like a Google Home.
It's always listening to you. It knows your moods based on the way it talks to you. Maybe it has, like, you know, a thermometer and whatever measures how much water's in the air so it can tell you the weather and stuff. And it's got GPS and knows where you're going so it can tell you where the traffic is. And, hey, maybe you should wait a little longer.
But that's all AI? Like, I don't see the connection.
It's just collecting all the data to give you a better experience.
Yeah, it is AI, Tucker. Like, but a lot of things that we use today that we weren't calling AI 5 years ago were AI, right? When Apple or Google predicts what you're going to ask it and shows you the weather on your app before you even ask for it, that's AI.
It's not generative AI.
It's not generative AI, but it's AI. When I tell my phone that I want it to call Jana and it knows to call my wife, that's AI. And so there's a lot of things that I think it could hypothetically do. I mean, I don't know. It's tough to spitball on all this, but could I imagine a device like this being really, really useful for seniors? Yeah, absolutely. But there's plenty of those types of dream things that Apple's been trying to put together. And so, yeah, I think my base case is still that something like this probably fails, but is there a potential market for it? Sure.
I also think if it is to survive and if it is to thrive, it does have to kill the phone. People don't want to be carrying around two devices.
No, they don't.
Like that's a step backwards.
Right.
People want one. The reason why smartphones are ubiquitous now and everyone has one, except for like the dream is, to finally retire and get rid of your smartphone because you don't need it anymore. But the reason why even like retire is because it's everything in your pocket.
Yep.
It's everything that you want to do. So now it's, well, I got my phone. Oh, I got to remember my OpenAI,
assistant
open thing that goes in my pocket. I don't know. I mean, I just, it's a step back. It's one more thing.
Yeah. Yeah, that's not what anybody wants.
It's a step back.
Talk to anybody that has a work smartphone and a personal smartphone. Nobody's happy about it.
If you want an AI assistant, it can't be something that I carry. It's got to be like I swallow it and it just lives in my stomach, collecting gastrointestinal data for the rest of my life. And then it burps it out.
So it's not a wearable, it's a swallowable.
It's a swallowable.
Chuck just wants Sam Altman to buy his ideas for $6.5 billion. And to be fair, so do I.
I'm sorry. I'm just thinking of my stomach playing music. And I really want to get there. So let's take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll talk whether or not Apple is developing a swallowable right after this.
Text us 617-362-1385 with your comments and questions about today's show, and let us know what you think about the stories we're covering. This is the Financial Exchange Radio Network. The United States Virgin Islands is consistently voted one of the top Caribbean destinations, and recently, 2 of their beaches, Trunk Bay in St. John and Magens Bay in St. Thomas, were voted a top 10 best beach in the Caribbean at the 2025 Traveler's Choice Best of the Best Awards. From the pristine beaches to its world-class dining, rich history, incredible golf, and perfect weather, the USVI has everything you need to make memories that will last a lifetime. From the moment you arrive, you will fall naturally in rhythm with the heartbeat of the islands. There's no money to exchange, and travel from New England could not be easier. Whether you're looking for a romantic getaway or a family vacation, the U.S. Virgin Islands is the perfect place for your next adventure. Go to visitusvi.com right now for more information and to book your trip. The USVI is America's Caribbean paradise. Go to visitusvi.com today. That's visitusvi.com.
Trust can play a key role in your financial strategy, and understanding the different kinds and their purpose may help you make the right decisions for your overall plan. Hi, this is Chuck Zodda from the Armstrong Advisory Group. Trusts are utilized for a variety of reasons, but the most basic use is to make settling an estate easier. Trusts have the ability to bypass probate, which can save you significant time and money while allowing your assets to be distributed directly to your beneficiaries. Our new guide this month is called Trusts in Your Financial Plan, and you can get it by calling 800-393-4001. Learn about trusts and their possible benefits to your financial strategy by requesting your free guide today. That number again is 800-393-4001, or request it online at armstrongadvisory.com. That's armstrongadvisory.com.
The proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services. New Englanders love the Caribbean, and now there's a Caribbean travel channel available for you to learn all about Caribbean culture while you're planning your next trip to your favorite island. The TravelShareIt.com marketplace is loaded with information about the arts, festivals, food, and music throughout the Caribbean, and is an interactive website featuring daily travel deals to any island of your choice. Book your next Caribbean vacation on the most comprehensive travel channel for the islands, TravelShareIt.com. That's TravelShareIt.com. There are critical mistakes you can make during the estate planning process that may have a damaging effect on your financial strategy. Cushing & Dolan's new guide is called Detour Ahead, Estate Planning Blunders to Avoid. Get yours today and make the right decisions to protect your assets. Call 866-848-5699. That's 866-848-5699, or request it online at legalexchangeshow.com. The proceeding was paid for, and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing & Armstrong do not endorse each other and are not affiliated.
Is it a stroke? Even if you're not sure, act fast and call 911. Signs can include face drooping on one side, arm weakness, speech difficulty, or not making sense when talking. Time is critical. A stroke requires immediate medical care, which starts as soon as the ambulance arrives. So if you see any sign of stroke, act fast and call 911. Visit mass.gov/stroke, sponsored by the Massachusetts Department of Public Health.
Here at the Massachusetts Department of Elementary and Secondary Education, we are committed to all students not only attending, but succeeding at school. Your presence is powerful. Share why you attend at doe.mass.edu.
Sponsored by the Massachusetts Department of Elementary and Secondary Education.
Find daily interviews and full shows of the Financial Exchange on our YouTube page. Like us on YouTube and get caught up on anything and everything you might have missed. This is the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
All right, time for trivia here on the Financial Exchange, and we're going to continue our SNL theme this week. In 1980, the Blues Brothers, starring John Belushi and Dan Aykroyd, hit theaters. The Blues Brother was a creation by the duo as a musical act for Saturday Night Live. The Blues Brothers was the first movie starring characters created on SNL. So, trivia question today. How many movies have been made based on SNL sketches? Once again, how many movies have been made based on SNL sketches? Be the third person today to text us at 617-362-1385 with the correct answer, and you win a Financial Exchange Show t-shirt. Once again, the third correct response to text us to the number 617-362-1385 will win that t-shirt. See complete contest rules at financialexchangeshow.com.
Blues Brothers, one of my top-time, all-time favorite movies. I have a uncle out in Chicago who has 2 cats. Names are Jake and Elwood.
Okay.
Solid cat names, I think.
It's great.
Yeah.
It's great.
Solid cat names.
Thanks.
You know, Tucker, I don't need this today.
Do they make swallowables?
No, but neither is Apple.
What's an OpenAI cat? Just sits on your desk.
So, it just crawls across your keyboard whenever you're trying to do something.
That's just a cat, Jony.
Apple desperately needs the AI help it's seeking. This is the piece from the Wall Street Journal. So I'm going back and forth.
It's actually from Bloomberg.
Whatever. Who cares? It's from someone. I keep going back and forth on whether AI is going to actually mean something. And I struggle with this because I see all of this hype around, Google's announcements from earlier this week. And it's about, you can have an AI agent, come up with, a travel itinerary for you and this and that. And hey, here's, you can do a prompt and have, live action, photorealistic videos that are generated. And I guess I'm just kind of looking at it going, you know what the problem is where I'm struggling with this on the AI piece is the translation into the physical world. And by that I mean, Mike, is there really a problem with me having to go out and plan a vacation? Like, is that something that costs me money aside from what I spend on the vacation? The answer is no, because you know what I do? You know what I do is I sit there while I'm watching TV one night, and my phone's in my hand, and I'm looking at travel stuff at the same time.
Yep.
I'm getting twice the ads that I would be otherwise. Is the AI agent actually going to get the ads delivered? Probably not. And if it, this is just, I'm thinking through this, how much value ends up being destroyed because you don't advertise to an AI agent.
Right.
That's just one part. But the other piece is, me looking for travel options or a restaurant to go to. Are there productivity gains that are made by having an AI agent do that?
I'm not sure. I guess the question is, does a travel agent get 10x more productive and have the ability to lay off their staff and reduce costs because they're utilizing artificial intelligence? Does a coding firm have the ability to do that? Claiming that Apple is in desperate need of AI help,
I don't know.
I struggle to get there today. I don't see what business it is that Apple is losing.
Right.
Because
there's no
artificial
consumer-facing
intelligence.
business right now. Now, if you want to know the thing that's interesting to me on AI and where I think there could be some interesting meat, it is, hey, can we get AI to function using real-world technology? And what I mean by this is that fusion of AI and robotics is interesting to me in that can it get to a place 5-10 years from now where it can actually do some of the stuff that is problematic? Like, hey, I've got 2 kids. I do a load of laundry every single day. can I have a laundry robot?
Yeah, that's the I think I quoted this the other day, Chuck, when you weren't on the program, but I'll just bring it up again. This was from Twitter. The future was supposed to free up our time from work so we could spend it on higher pursuits. Instead, we created AI that makes art while all the rest of us do work.
Yes.
And that's not appealing to a lot of people right now.
The other great cartoon that I've seen on this is it's someone like sitting up like at a computer screen. It's like, oh, I got to write a 12-page report by tomorrow. Hey, AI, take these 10 bullet points and make them into a 12-page report to send to my superior. And then the superior receives and goes, oh my goodness, it's 12 pages. Hey, AI, distill this down into 10 bullet points so that I can, easily explain it to my boss. And it's like, are we actually solving problems, or are we just moving stuff around and changing the problems that we're solving but not really getting more time from this? And that's what I'm struggling with. And also, I just don't know that there's anyone in their daily life who's sitting there going, I need more AI right now, and also has the wherewithal to make it work for them. Because here's going to be the problem. The reason why Apple has sold 6 quadrillion iPhones is because you turn it on and generally you understand how it works. They've made it really intuitive. Before he passed away, my 102-year-old grandfather had an iPhone, and he could FaceTime us and stuff. Making AI work for you in the real world is not as seamless. There's a lot that goes into it in terms of making it work right now, and that, I think, is going to be the struggle. Let's take a quick break. When we come back, we get the trivia answer after this.
Bringing the latest financial news straight to your radio every day. It's the Financial Exchange on the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
Congratulations to the students and staff of Emergence Academy in Springfield, Massachusetts for their winning submission to the state's Power of Presence initiative. The school's amazing video will help spread the word about the power of students being in school every day. To see the video and learn more, visit us at doe.mass.edu.
Sponsored by the Massachusetts Department of Elementary and Secondary Education.
It happens all over Massachusetts.
Can you tie my shoes?
In every home and every community.
Be careful on your bike.
Learning can happen anytime, anywhere.
We'll see you at practice this weekend.
And no matter how learning takes place in your family's life, DESE is there as your partner. The Massachusetts Department of Elementary and Secondary Education. Never stop learning. Find out more at mass.gov/back-to-school.
Sponsored by the Massachusetts Department for Elementary and Secondary Education.
The United States Virgin Islands is consistently voted one of the top Caribbean destinations. And recently, 2 of their beaches, Trunk Bay in St. John and Maggins Bay in St. Thomas, were voted a top 10 best beach in the Caribbean at the 2025 Traveler's Choice Best of the Best Awards. From the pristine beaches to its world-class dining, rich history, incredible golf, and perfect weather, the USVI has everything you need to make memories that will last a lifetime. From the moment you arrive, you will fall naturally in rhythm with the heartbeat of the islands. There's no money to exchange, and travel from New England could not be easier. Whether you're looking for a romantic getaway or a family vacation, the U.S. Virgin Islands is the perfect place for your next adventure. Go to visitusvi.com right now for more information and to book your trip. The USVI is America's Caribbean paradise. Go to visitusvi.com today. That's visitusvi.com.
A solid financial plan has many layers, and trusts are often a core piece. Hi, this is Mike Armstrong from the Armstrong Advisory Group. Understanding the various kinds of trusts that exist can be extremely beneficial to your strategy. If you're retired or nearing retirement age, a trust may help you with a wide range of issues, such as asset protection, tax efficiency, and avoiding probate. Call us today at 800-393-4001 and ask for our new guide called Trusts and Your Financial Plan. We'll discuss a number of different trusts and the areas in which they may help and how to determine which which one may be right for you. Even if you already have a trust in place, this guide can provide a description of certain issues that may arise and could help you decide if changes are needed. Call us today at 800-393-4001 and get your guide today. Or you can request the guide online at armstrongadvisory.com.
The proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services.
This is Tucker Silva of the Financial Exchange Show, and I'm joined today by estate planning attorney Todd Lutzke with your Financial Exchange Quick Tip of the Day. And today we're talking about the top estate planning mistakes to avoid. Todd, what is the downside of adding your kids to your accounts or adding their names to your real estate deeds as a joint owner? Won't this avoid probate?
You're absolutely right. It would avoid probate, but there are better ways to avoid probate than just doing something simple, right? Simple isn't always better. Throwing a name on an account or adding a designated beneficiary or a joint owner on a piece of property might not be the best way to go. Here's the problem. If you name one of your children as a joint owner and you have 3 children and you put that child on just because it's convenient and they're geographically close to you, well, you could be accidentally disinheriting your other children because this property, this asset will only go to that child. That child doesn't have to give it to the other kids. So that's a problem. And if you put your name, if you add a child's name to your real estate, now you're exposing it to that child's creditors, that child's potential divorces. That's never good. And plus, you've lost control over it. If you try to sell it, you need that kid's permission, and half the money would go to that kid. Please, folks, set up a trust, fund your trust much better than just trying to do it shorthanded and just give away assets or adding names to accounts.
Todd Lutzke and the estate planning experts at Cushing & Dolan have written a brand new guide that details the estate planning blunders to avoid. You can request this brand new guide by calling 866-848-5699. That's 866-848-5699, or you can request it from their website, legalexchangeshow.com.
The proceeding was paid for and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing & Armstrong do not endorse each other and are not affiliated. The Financial Exchange Show podcast drops every day on Apple, Spotify, and iHeartRadio. Hit that subscribe button and leave us a 5-star review. You're listening to the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
All right, trivia question today was, how many movies have been made based on Saturday Night Live sketches? That would be 11. 11. Bobby from Revere, Mass. is our winner today, taking home a Financial Exchange Show t-shirt. Congrats to Bobby, and we play trivia every day here on the Financial Exchange. See complete contest rules at financialexchangeshow.com.
Mike, we got a piece here from Market Watch, and it's titled 4 Cases When a Roth Conversion Won't Pay Off for You. Before we get into it, just a reminder for our listeners, a Roth conversion is when you take money from a traditional IRA for which you have not yet paid the taxes on, move it into a Roth IRA, and have to pay the taxes in order to do so, but now you have that money in a tax-free investment vehicle that you can let the proceeds grow tax-free until you decide to remove them.
And between traditional Roth conversions, backdoor Roth conversions, mega backdoor Roth conversions, 401k Roth conversions, I think there's, not to say that, financial planning is a terribly exciting area in the first place, but I don't think there's anything.
It is.
I don't think there's anything more in fashion right now than talking about and conducting stuff when it comes to your Roth IRA. And there's a number of reasons that obsession is there. I think there's a general concern that, look at the deficit, tax rates are going to need to go up. Who was the big hedge fund manager who did a bunch of Roth stuff and has like a $5 billion Roth IRA.
Oh, it's
now.
Peter Thiel. It's not Peter Thiel does,
Peter Thiel has a giant Roth. And so I think there's become this fascination with the idea of the Roth because you will never have to pay taxes on it again. And for that reason, as many people as were missing out on the opportunity a decade ago to contribute to a Roth, I now see that having reversed, where too many people are contributing money to Roth when they frankly should not be. and are just doing it either because they've read some of these stories or it's available in their 401k and they just don't really know any better as to why it makes sense to do a Roth versus a traditional. The roadblocks that is it Barron's or Market Watch that put this together?
Market Watch.
Yeah, the roadblocks that they put together are unique to individuals and are as good as any other. But the big story when it comes to Roth is that you contribute to one because you fundamentally believe that you are in a lower tax bracket now than you will be sometime in the future.
Right.
And if you keep that in the background of your mind as, hey, this is the core fundamental of why you do something like this, and that can be because you think your income is going to grow, because you're going to have required minimum distributions, or because you believe tax rates are going to triple and you're going to face a much higher rate of taxation down the road. But that's the fundamental core belief when it comes to, hey, why would I be contributing to Roth or converting to Roth or doing anything when it comes to that type of account? As I just mentioned, the narrative is kind of flipped. Like a decade ago when I was sitting down with people, it was like, wow, you really missed an opportunity. You should have been doing this ahead of time. Now it's much more the other. You are paying way too much in taxes right now because you are so obsessed with Roth. If you've been trying to navigate this and you're just not entirely sure why you're contributing to one type of account versus another, if you've been told what a great opportunity is to convert money into Roth and you want to learn more about how to do it, please give the folks at Armstrong Advisory Group a call. As you can tell from my tone, there's just a lot of mistakes that come from people misunderstanding how the tax code works and how it's likely to affect them in the future. If you have questions like that, please give us a ring at 800-393-4001. We work with our clients day in, day out on ensuring that their tax plan works with their financial strategy, which works with their investment plan. And if you're not feeling like you've got a real clear view on all that, the number once again is 800-393-4001.
The proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services.
Mike, do you want to talk about EVs in China, building on federal land, or best and final job offers?
Let's go federal land.
Okay, what about it?
So there's been, mutterings of the idea that, hey, we desperately need to build more housing across the country. And wow, look at all this federal land that we have. There's 245 million acres of land alone owned by the Bureau and administered by the Bureau of Land Management.
Yes, it's called Nevada.
Yeah, it's Nevada, parts of Utah, parts of Arizona.
It's mostly Nevada.
Mostly Nevada.
Yeah.
And it points to the fact, like, hey, just a fraction of that, 850 square miles, 500,000 acres, could support 3 million homes, which is technically true, but doesn't address the actual concerns about housing demand in this country.
No, this is basically, hey, let's
build them and they will come.
Let's build a new city here and see what happens, which
China tried that. Few dozen times.
Right, like, here's the thing about how cities have historically developed. There are generally two reasons why they do. Number one, they're near water. Number two, they're near resources. Sometimes they're near both. Other than that, you generally don't really get cities developing. Like, people don't just go to the middle of nowhere, buy a bunch of land, and start a new city because it is completely not feasible to do so.
Now, is it true that there are some plots of land probably near Reno, near Las Vegas, that are owned by the federal government that would fit well into a development plan for demand for housing in some of those areas? I'm sure there are. But the problem with supply and demand of housing is not one of, wow, we just cannot afford to build more houses in Las Vegas. It's much more, dear God, there are no homes for sale in the state of Connecticut. What do we do? And freeing up federal land in Connecticut is not going to fix that.
No.
Unless you're...
Well,
I just don't know where the federal land is.
I don't even know if there is any federal land in Connecticut.
I don't think so.
Like,
it's like a submarine base, and that's all you got.
Right. Like, I'm just not sure what's there. I mean, look, if you look at most of the land, the Bureau of Land Management is the biggest one that people will look at. It's basically deserts in Nevada, and to a lesser extent Utah. There's some other stuff scattered around, but like those are the big ones.
Here's what it comes back down to for me. Everyone is still looking for this magic silver bullet to fix the housing issue in this country, and just ignoring the fact that if you want to fix the housing affordability crisis in this country, you have to allow for more homes to be built in places where people want to live.
Right.
It's really, really easy. It's not about building subsidized housing. It's not about offering tax cuts for mortgages. It's not about any of these other things. It is, you have to go very much to the local level and say that at the local level, we are going to allow for more and denser homes to be built. And guess what? Time after time, voters in those local levels say, hell no, we don't want it.
The places where they've said, we're okay with this, you've actually seen home prices moderate.
Yep.
But that's not happening in many places, and so you've got, problems, obviously. So I think, look, again, as Mike said, everyone's trying to come up with, well, we could just build more, find ways to build more.
And if partitioning off a little bit of federal land helps with that, then sure, I can be convinced of it, but it's not going to be, that's our one solution to fixing the housing crisis.
And it doesn't mean that you need to completely change the character or tenor of your local area.
Although it gets framed that way. Living in a town that just went through this very heated debate, it was framed as either vote this down or this town is going to be completely unrecognizable and it's going to look like downtown Boston. And that was not the truth of it, but that's how the conversations get framed.
Well, here's the other truth, and this is a tough one for people to swallow, which is your town shouldn't look the exact same as when you grew up.
No.
Like if you're 75 years old and your town still looks the exact same,
it's
probably not doing very well.
Terrible town.
It's probably not doing very well.
I don't mean
quite
terrible
honestly.
town. I mean economically, it hasn't developed.
No,
Sorry about that.
It's probably not doing very well then. And I can go through a whole laundry list of New England towns that I've spent time in where you can tell the town is just not doing well and the population's kind of feeling down about it. And the town looks the same as it did 60 years ago, but that's not necessarily a good thing. It doesn't mean that you have to go and immediately say, hey, let's start building 60-story buildings or even, 4-story condos and stuff like that. The stuff that you're talking about can be as simple as, hey, let's allow for duplexes and triplexes to be constructed, and now we're getting 2 or 3 units of housing on each parcel instead of just one. It can be stuff like that that still makes a big difference. And if we just say, hey, if we just say we don't want more people and we don't want more traffic, I don't know that you're actually going to like the results of that. Because usually towns don't just stay the same. They either grow or they shrink. You don't usually just stay the same. And so people are going to go and businesses are going to go where the growth is. And if you don't remain committed to that growth,
your school systems suffer, your infrastructure
it's not
suffers,
good.
And it's not a great space to be.
It's not good. Let's take a quick break here. When we come back, we'll do a little bit of stack roulette.
Missed one of our shows? Catch up anytime by asking your Alexa smart speaker to play the Financial Exchange. This is the Financial Exchange Radio Network. Margaritaville Resort Cape Cod is perfect for your next New England vacation. Located just off Route 6 in Hyannis, the resort has everything you need to enjoy an incredible week with your family or a quick weekend getaway. Along with first-class accommodations and food, Fins Up Water Park is packed with aquatic adventures that will keep the kids entertained for hours. The summer season is coming soon, so make plans today for a fun-filled vacation at Margaritaville Resort Cape Cod. For more information and to book your trip, visit MargaritavilleResortsCapeCod.com.
Hi, I'm Michael Valila, Adjutant of the Disabled American Veterans Department of Massachusetts. The DAV of Massachusetts provides thousands of hours of voluntary services at our VA medical centers and soldiers' homes and is the only DAV department in the country to lead a veterans housing initiative for both single veterans and those with families. These programs are critical to serving our veterans in their time of need. You can help our great American heroes by making a donation today. Please visit DAV5K.Boston. That's DAV5K.Boston.
Hi, this is Mike Armstrong from the Armstrong Advisory Group. Estate and financial planning go hand in hand, and one of the most common ways to keep that bond secure is with a trust. Our new guide, called Trusts in Your Financial Plan, is available right now. In it, we'll discuss the various types of trusts that exist and how they might benefit your planning process. Trusts provide a number of different protections for your assets, including privacy, control, and tax efficiency. If you're retired or nearing retirement and have concerns about your financial strategy and whether or not a trust may help, call us today at 800-393-4001 and ask for your free guide called Trusts and Your Financial Plan. Learn about how a trust could make a difference for you and your family by calling 800-393-4001. That number again is 800-393-4001, or you can request the guide from ArmstrongAdvisory.com.
The proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services. The United States Virgin Islands is consistently voted one of the top Caribbean destinations. And recently, 2 of their beaches, Trunk Bay in St. John and Magens Bay in St. Thomas, were voted a top 10 best beach in the Caribbean at the 2025 Traveler's Choice Best of the Best Awards. From the pristine beaches to its world-class dining, rich history, incredible golf, and perfect weather, the USVI has everything you need to make memories that will last a lifetime. From the moment you arrive, you will fall naturally in rhythm with the heartbeat of the islands. There's no money to exchange, and travel from New England could not be easier. Whether you're looking for a romantic getaway or a family vacation, the U.S. Virgin Islands is the perfect place for your next adventure. Go to visitusvi.com right now for more information and to book your trip. The USVI is America's Caribbean paradise. Go to visitusvi.com today. That's visitusvi.com.
Hey, listen, are you a 50-year-old person looking for term life insurance? Then you need to talk to Bob. Bob specializes in helping people find $1 million or more of term life insurance for a couple of $100 a month. Look, you need to know there's a price war in the term life insurance business, and you may be paying too much. Call Bob, and he'll shop and see how much money he can save you. Look, this could be the last term life insurance policy you ever have. Your rates are guaranteed for the next 20 years. That's right, guaranteed level rates for the next 20 years. And if you're a smoker or your health is not perfect, Bob has great rates for you too. So for $1 million of term life insurance coverage for a couple of $100 a month, call Bob right now. 800-965-7987. 800-965-7987. 800-965-7987. That's 800-965-7987. Paid for by Term Direct.
If you missed any of today's show, catch up whenever you want on our YouTube page. Find daily show segments and full shows. Just go to youtube.com and search for The Financial Exchange. This is your home for breaking business and financial news. This is the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
This segment of the Financial Exchange is brought to you in part by the U.S. Virgin Islands Department of Tourism. The U.S. Virgin Islands are St. Croix, St. Thomas, and St. John, and are consistently voted one of the top Caribbean vacation destinations. Enjoy world-class cuisine, pristine beaches, rich history, and a vibrant nightlife. Book your trip now to visit America's Caribbean paradise, the United States Virgin Islands. For reservations and more information, go to visitusvi.com. That's visitusvi.com.
Mike, what do you got for Stack Roulette?
I've got Elon Musk making promises that I don't think he's going to be able to wiggle out of this time. In an interview with CNBC's David Faber on Tuesday, he promised, among other things, that he would be bringing Tesla robotaxis to Austin, Texas in June.
It sounds like they actually are.
Yeah. So he said he's starting off with only 10 vehicles in Austin to test out this robotaxi service. But, you know, instead of him promising things that are like 7 years out at this stage, he's actually saying, no, we're going to start with something next month in Austin, Texas. So I think I believe him this time that they are going to move forward with this. He claims that the goal is to rapidly expand that to San Francisco and other areas, basically copying what Waymo's been able to do on their own self-driving taxi service. And again, you know, this has been a promise from Tesla for years now that, hey, the self-driving skills that you have developed over the years are going to eventually lead to fully autonomous vehicles. They have not fulfilled that promise thus far, but maybe this is actually a step in that direction for once.
It's going to be put up or shut up time. We'll know by the end of the year how things are going with their rollout. I don't have any expectations, good or bad, and we'll see what happens with it.
Speaking of self-driving taxis, Tucker's father just reminded us that Waymo is in the city of Boston now. So if you see a weird-looking white Jaguar with a bunch of cameras mounted to the top of it, that's a self-driving car that has a driver in it.
Why can't they just name companies good anymore?
Like, actually just call it good?
Yes, just call it good.
You don't like Waymo?
I hate Waymo. Well, I hate the name Waymo. It doesn't mean anything. Like, you said, who said Jaguar? You said Jaguar? Jaguar. It immediately, like, invokes something.
Yeah.
You know, Waymo. Well, what if I wanted to weigh less? You know, like, I don't know. It's just kind of, it's Venmo. Like, what does that mean?
Did you say there were no drivers?
I don't know. Name it after
No, all of the Waymos in Boston have drivers on them.
Like, name it after yourself, like Jim Google did or Tim Apple.
Right.
I mean, it's not the best. It's not the best photo/video he took, but
doesn't look like a driver.
I don't see a driver. Maybe he's like reclined all the way back, but
again, not. Can someone remind Tucker's father to stop taking pictures?
Well, it was in bumper to bumper.
I hope this isn't a normal activity.
Yeah, it was bumper to bumper because he crashed into the guy's bumper in front of him.
Yeah. Tucker's father's pulled over on the side of the road because he caused an accident, and now he's taking pictures of all the cars go by. Sorry, Tucker's father. I know that's not the truth.
No.
From Wall Street Journal, you can still negotiate a best and final job offer.
Good luck.
So here's the thing. You can always ask for more. There's also a chance that the company might say, peace out if you try to negotiate a best and final job offer. Typically, when you get to like the stage where a company is saying that, they usually mean it. You do have a thing now where apparently some companies are saying that their first offer is their best and final, which in that case I would say, okay, yeah, like you can go back to them. But beyond that, hey, when someone says this is our best and final offer, I really wouldn't expect anything from them. And in fact, you might,
it's not 2021.
You might end up in a spot that you don't like if you try to negotiate it because they do have other candidates these days.
Yeah. The job market situation has changed dramatically here across the country, and for most people, that negotiating power has disappeared. The idea of signing bonuses for a large portion of roles and big annual increases is just not really on the table outside of some very niche industries that are not generally in the white-collar space that the Wall Street Journal is probably or is this Wall Street Journal? Yeah.
This is talking about someone trying to negotiate a $250,000 job offer. I don't think that's the average person.
No.
Might
be the average Wall Street Journal reader.
The data indicates it's not. So, I don't know. I'm a believer you got to read the room, and the room right now is saying
take the job.
It's not a job seeker's market.
I want to talk about mortgage rates in reaction to the move up in yields. According to Mortgage News Daily, you now have the 30-year fixed-rate mortgage going for nearly 7.1% on average. That comes alongside the CNBC report on existing home sales, just the existing home sales data that came out earlier, which indicated that home sales in the month of April were the worst we've seen since April of 2009. So worst month of April we've seen since 2009, I guess, is the answer. We did see some indications that ticked back up in May from what Chuck was mentioning, but overall, really tough to see any sort of home volume movement happening in this environment where mortgage rates are just so high and so many people are mortgage locked.
Yeah, it's just a very messy housing market right now. And the housing market is one place that I do think, if you asked me to describe it in a single word, I would use the word stagflationary. I see the stag and I see the flation. prices are still high. In much of the country, prices are still going up. And it's really slow.
Activity slow. Yeah. Okay.
It's a stagflationary housing market right now. I'll say that. The rest of the economy, I have yet to see the stag. Yet to see the stag. And inflation is moderating. Quick break here for the entire rest of the day. We'll see you tomorrow on the Financial Exchange. Trust